extremely hot take?
I low-key love Need for Speed 2015. This NFS is one of, if not the most beautiful looking game of all time.
But you said you knew Spanish.
Okay, maybe not Red Dead 2 level of beauty, but for a racing game, the visuals are truly insane. I remember when the trailer first dropped, the streets went crazy. People were claiming that this was Underground 3, the sequel that we never got. It was a wild time to be a Need for Speed fan, and to a certain degree, you could make the argument that this is the closest thing we've ever seen or got to a sequel to Underground 2. They share some very similar qualities. It's always nighttime, the vibes are somewhat similar, the customization is fantastic. So is this Underground 3? No, absolutely not. And when you look back at the golden age of Need for Speed games, this game is highly regarded as a far cry from the greatness of those historic titles, with people going as far as saying that Need for Speed 2015 is a terrible game. But why is that? From the years of 2009 to 2014, fans were clamoring for the return of the EA black box style of Need for Speed game. Games like Shift, Hot Pursuit, Shift 2, The Run, Most Wanted 2012, and Rivals, while all being relatively well received,
minus Most Wanted 2012,
we're still missing that core Need for Speed soul. The customization, the open world cops, the underground street race feel, and so in theory, Need for Speed 2015 would be a smashing hit. It's got the vibe, the customization, the cops, pretty much everything the community was yearning for all these years during this era of Need for Speed games. And yet, a lot of people dislike this game, like genuinely. But I gotta be honest with you guys, I kinda love this game. And before you get the pitchforks out and call me no words, allow me to briefly explain. As much as people love to clown Need for Speed 2015, there is a reason some of us still come back to it years later. And the biggest reason, without question, is the vibe. The atmosphere in this game is immaculate. It's straight up underground energy, and that's about the highest praise you can give a Need for Speed title. Ventura Bay, the map, is soaked in neon, bright lights, and just mood. It constantly feels like something is happening around you, even when you're not actively in a race. Just driving through the city at night feels good, and that's something a lot of racing games completely fail at. I don't know, this might make me catch some flack, but games like Forza Horizon, I could just never get behind too much. And I don't know if it's because of the vibes or that it's a racing festival that's completely overdone. The vibes aren't there for me. And I know that might be a hot take, but just compare Forza Horizon to the Need for Speed 2015 vibes. There are NPC racers scattered all over the city, which makes the game feel so much more alive. You'll see them getting chased by cops, in the middle of an organized race, and much more. Not only that, but it can lead to some cool moments. If you make your way to the bottom right of the map at the docks, you will actually see other NPC cars practicing their drifting skills. And although the AI aren't the sharpest tools in the shed, this did catch me off guard at first, because I had no idea this game had little details like that. Visually, I genuinely think this is one of the best looking games ever made. I'm dead serious. The graphics are insane. Now, do I think they cheated a little? Yes I do. It's always raining. The wet roads with the reflections will make almost anything look better. And in specific parts of the map, you can see there's like a different filter almost, like different sections are color graded in different ways. But even knowing that, this game still looks ridiculous. The lighting, the reflections, the way the cars sit in the environment, the little rain droplets on your wheels when you zoom in. It all comes together so beautifully in my opinion. There's a reason that meme keeps popping up on your feed every couple of weeks, where people bring up how sexy Need for Speed 2015 looked, even in comparison to games coming out now, in the big 2026. Holy shit, we getting old. Now I know what you're thinking.
RPG, how long are you gonna glaze the graphics? Good graphics doesn't equal a good game.
Okay, just allow me to do tricks on it and bring up one last point regarding the graphics. I absolutely love when a game has a great photo mode, and it's not necessarily to take pictures, but more so to capture nice cinematic B-roll for videos. As you can tell, I was having a blast just trying different combinations of angles, different lenses, filters, like this shot right here. I think this is an absolutely beautiful shot. But seriously, very quickly, not to pester you, but I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, as I'm chasing my lifelong dream to hit 100k subscribers. It would mean more to me than you'll ever know. Okay, no more e-begging. I'm sorry. So when you take the photo mode of this game and combine it with the incredible graphics, you can get some seriously killer shots. The only gripe I have is that you can't take photos while the car is in motion, but that relates to the fact that this game is always and only online. Yeah, you heard that correctly. There is no way to play single player in this game. This is one of the two main reasons why people trash on this game, and I don't blame anyone. Not being able to pause a single player racing game is genuinely AIDS. Have to pause the game because you have to scratch your balls? Can't pause. Have to pause the game because your dog is barking and needs to take a shit? Can't pause. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are cool moments when you run into a real player in your lobby. You will come across another player in your world in the middle of a race while you're just out exploring, and in those instances it truly feels like a lived-in city with not only real other players around the world, but quality NPC racers around the city too. Like, there was this one moment where I ran into a random player in the city. We both halted to a complete stop, and without any communication at all, we impromptu raced each other out of nowhere. It was such an awesome moment. Shout out my boy Raphael, wherever you are.
In the arms of the angel.
But with that being said, the cons outweigh the pros tenfold. You will constantly be losing connection, getting kicked for server maintenance, having to sit through dreadful loading times, etc, etc. This is never something you should be experiencing within a single player game. This should have been something completely optional. This feature alone will inevitably kill this game at some point, considering EA will probably shut the servers off. I'm actually kind of shocked they haven't done so already. Okay, but I'm simply getting too ahead of myself here. If we backtrack to this game's incredible atmosphere, I think it shines brightly, even if you completely ignore the graphics. It's the little details that matter, the Need for Speed details. What is a Need for Speed detail? Well, it's something as simple as when you're racing, you have one soundtrack of songs, and when you're in the garage tuning, you have a separate soundtrack. That was a staple in the golden era of Need for Speed games. Come on, I think we all know every single lyric to Riders on the Storm.
But the wheels won't stop. 200 on the highway, fresh up off the block. He's a rider.
And I'm not saying that the songs in this game are anything too special, but the fact that they included separate soundtracks like vintage NFS would do is something that doesn't go unnoticed by veteran fans. Some of the garage songs are so damn good. It's like this mysterious trance vibe, reminiscent of Midnight Club 2 almost. After looking into it, I realized all my favorite songs are just songs from old Need for Speed games that they put in the game, so I guess even subconsciously I'm a nostalgia junkie. Gameplay wise, there's a lot I genuinely like. I really enjoy how the game is structured. There are 5 different mission paths, and you can tackle them in any order you want. It feels non-linear in a way that respects the player's time. There's a decent amount of side content too, like finding hidden parts around the map, taking pictures at certain points of interest, doing donuts at certain locations. I honestly like it more than most modern games. It's not too Gen Z-ified, with 7 trillion things popping up in your face and on the map. It strikes a decent balance between having stuff to do and find, while not feeling overwhelmed. Once you do beat the story, you unlock Prestige Mode, something added post-launch. It's a set of 40 events you've already completed, except now you're going for bronze, silver, or gold medals based on performance. And when I say this might be one of the hardest challenges in any racing game ever made, I mean that shit. Getting gold medals takes literal weeks. This honestly might be harder than Midnight Club 2, and I do not say that lightly.
Go to another place now.
Speaking of the story, like I said earlier, the mission structure is split into 5 different paths. Each of the 5 paths are directly correlated to the game's main cast of characters with a theme and ultimately a boss battle, which is represented by various legends within the car community. They're known as icons in the game. Amy represents build, the icon being Nakai-san. Spike represents speed, with the icon being Magnus Walker. Manu represents style, with the icon being Ken Block. Robin represents crew, with the icon being the Risky Devil crew. And lastly, Travis represents outlaw, with the icon being Morohoshi. Alright, I'll just briefly unpack the story and writing because let's be honest, most of you probably don't care. But the story is where Need for Speed 2015 becomes interesting for all the wrong and right reasons. The story is decently cringe, nothing crazy, not nearly as bad as modern Need for Speed, but still has that modern cringe twang to it.
Hey, this is Fred, Norwegian Hammer.
What up, buddy? Frederick.
I want to punch you in the face, Fred. This game sits at a really weird point in time for writing in games. Something happened between roughly 2015 and 2025, and it gets way worse as the years go on. But this is where you can feel it starting. It's almost like writers collectively forgot how actual humans act, behave, and communicate with each other.
And now he has this bunch of amazing Porsches, man. He set a new style. He even owns his own goddamn bridge. Yeah.
And this isn't just a Need for Speed issue either. This applies to modern movies, TV shows, everything. Why are characters so outlandish and happy-go-lucky, ha ha ha, I'm so quirky and hip, and hashtag awesome relatable?
I just move shit with my freaking mind! Yeah, okay, that is something I do now. I do magic, talk to sentient cuffs, kill jacked up beasts. You know what?
Nobody talks like this. Nobody acts like this. There's a specific moment that perfectly captures this problem.
Right, I'm gonna post this. Hashtag risky devil. Hashtag best night ever.
No human on earth talks like that. I don't care how deep you are into car culture, Instagram captions, or vibes, nobody communicates this way in real life. And what's wild is that this was 2015, when it was just starting to get really cringe. This was the opening act. This was the calm before the storm, because I promise you, it gets much, much worse for the Need for Speed franchise.
JK, blood makes me squeamish. Well, I'm getting ramen and watching that new reality show where they put naked people on stage and make them sing for clothes. Season finale. Maybe one of them will finally get socks. See ya!
With that being said, Need for Speed 2015 is still the least egregious offender when it comes to this style of writing. Compared to what comes later, this almost feels restrained. Like I said, this game is also where the franchise really kicked off the whole
Ha ha ha, everything is so happy and positive all the time
tone. No edge, no tension, no real conflict that feels grounded. Everyone's smiling, everyone's hyped 24/7, which, like I said, is something a lot of modern media is guilty of doing now in the writing for some reason. It's part of the reason I could never really get invested in the Forza Horizon games. There's no stakes at all. Even if you lose, you get rewarded. It all kind of just feels pointless. And I know it's because modern games want to reward players instantly because of shorter and shorter attention spans and all that, but I digress. One genuinely cool thing the story does, though, is the tech behind the cutscenes. Your actual in-game car appears in the live-action cutscene. It doesn't always look amazing, but it's still really damn cool. Seeing your own build show up in real-world footage adds a layer of personalization that I really wish they had refined and carried forward. Unfortunately, this is the only game where this feature exists, and that honestly feels like a missed opportunity. Now, let's talk about the characters quickly, because the story revolves entirely around your crew. So we have the 5 members of your crew, as I mentioned earlier, plus one icon/boss at the end of each story arc. Manu is basically the Dominic Toretto of this story. He's kind of the leader, the family guy. The "this is bigger than racing" type. Spike, on the other hand, is more like the Vince. He's your right-hand man, but he's also a hothead and spends the entire game being weirdly jealous of you for literally everything and is a bit of a shit disturber.
Well, you want a dip? I got a dope new rat run downtown.
I don't think so. Our boy's become a street drifter.
Like that?
Are you mad, bro?
No, I'm just looking for a wingman, that's all.
Are you mad, bro?
Anytime you succeed, Spike seems personally offended by it, and the game never really gives a satisfying reason as to why. Travis is the bad boy outlaw type, lives on the edge, probably smells like cigarettes and a Coors Light, brother. Probably my favorite character.
Are you the kind of driver who's in it for the rush?
Amy is the mechanic, and honestly one of the more tolerable characters. She actually feels like she belongs in the world and has a purpose beyond just yelling slang at you. And then there's Robin, who is kind of just there. She exists, she talks, and she's hot. I guess you don't really need much more than that. One of the biggest issues with the story delivery is how often these characters call you. And when I say non-stop, I mean non-stop. You will get a call every 30 seconds about something. Some of it is relevant, a lot of it is completely pointless banter. And because you play as a silent protagonist, you just sit there while they talk at you. It can definitely get old. What makes it even worse is that if you don't immediately go to the event they want you to do, they will call you again and call you out for taking too long. It genuinely feels like a clingy relationship.
Hey, you out tonight or what? Just asking.
Hey man, what's the deal? You coming out or what? You neglect your ride for too long, it will come back to bite you. I promise. See you later.
Like, bro, I just finished a race. Let me breathe.
Alright,
Despite all of that, the finale of the game is actually pretty cool. The final event is one last race that includes your entire crew along with all the icons. It's the longest race in the entire story, and it takes you across the entire map. It feels like a proper send-off, assuming you don't get disconnected halfway through because of the always online bullshit. So yeah, better pray to God your connection holds up. Once the race is done, you and your crew celebrate with a party, and this is where the story truly peaks. Because in this final moment, after everything you've been through, you finally come to the realization that this whole time, you were a furry. And that's the story of Need for Speed 2015. Kinda cringe, awkward, weirdly wholesome, occasionally cool, and very much a product of its time. It's not great, it's not offensively bad, but it's absolutely fascinating when you look at it as a starting point for where modern Need for Speed storytelling eventually ends up.
I follow you on Insta, Punk Funk Diva. I love your feed.
Appreciate it. I am just trying to voice my true self, you know? Because it took me a long time to find it. Having to present as male in my community, that anxiety, it took everything I had just to leave the house.
Like, I get it, it's a racing game, not a single player 50-hour experience, but is asking for something that's not complete dog shit so much to ask for? And with that rant out of the way, allow me to completely contradict myself and say I actually like the Need for Speed 2015 story. Okay, rant over. We now have to talk about the giant elephant in the room. I know all the Need for Speed 2015 haters have been waiting for it. You might have even already left me a comment yelling at me, or maybe you haven't even made it this long into the video. But we spoke about how there are two main things that pretty much ruin this game. One of which was the always online aspect, and the other is two words: CW, crab walking. Yeah, the handling in this game is pretty freaking bad, and when all you do in a racing game is, well, race, nice feeling handling should be your absolute #1 priority above all else. Even story, even graphics, it makes or breaks a racing game. See, in this game you can tune your handling a bit and make it so your build is either more slidey and drifty or more grippy and be able to corner better. In my opinion, making your setup lean a bit more in the drift setup direction ends up giving you the best feeling handling out of all the options you have. When you do a full grip build, oh boy does that ever feel like shit. Instead of rewarding clean racing lines, the game punishes you with random slides and snap oversteer that makes no sense. This is where the crab walking term becomes impossible to ignore, and it's exactly why so many players bounced off this game completely. And that's the tragedy of Need for Speed 2015's handling. There is a way to make it feel decent, but you have to build around the game's flaws instead of being able to drive the way you want. When a racing game asks you to compromise your preferred driving style just to make the physics tolerable, now that's a problem. So yeah, the complaints are valid. The handling is rough, it's inconsistent, and it's not like Need for Speed doesn't know how to make great handling physics. They've done it many times prior. Once you kind of understand how it wants to be played and you stop fighting it head on, there is a version of NFS 2015 that feels enjoyable. You just have to kind of dig through the jank and find it. And whether that's acceptable or not, well, that's where the community is still split to this day. I personally don't mind. I think the pros of this game outweigh the cons. While we're already on the topic of some of the game's negatives, allow me to mention a few of the other cons that absolutely deserve their own spotlight, because some of these are genuinely baffling design choices. Let's start with the police/notoriety system, because wow, the cops in this game are truly a joke. And I don't just mean that in like a they're too easy way, I mean they serve almost no real purpose beyond being a visual prop for the city. On paper, there's a heat system that goes from level 1 to level 4, and in theory, it's supposed to become more intense and dangerous the higher you go. In reality though, every single heat level feels basically the same. The cops will never challenge you in any meaningful way, ever. You have to actively slow your car down and stay with them and kind of guide them with you if you are trying to raise your heat or do a cop chase for an event.
8 hours later.
It honestly feels like the police were an afterthought during development. Like the devs knew this was a reboot, knew fans expected cops, and figured, well, we have to put them in, I guess. Even if that meant including them purely for the sake of saying that they exist. There's no real tension, no fear of getting busted, no moments where you feel like you're being hunted. They're just there. You see the lights, you hear the sirens, and then 5 seconds later, you're gone.
A few moments later.
And that lack of tension is made even worse by the pursuit music. In older games, especially Most Wanted, the pursuit music made the chase. It elevated everything you were doing. Your heart rate literally went up, mistakes felt costly, and escaping actually felt earned. In NFS 2015, the pursuit music just kind of exists in the background. It's almost soothing. It's very strange sounding in my opinion. It doesn't set the tone at all, it doesn't add intensity, and it definitely doesn't make the cops feel threatening. Music matters a lot in racing games, my friends. And this is one of those areas where the game completely drops the ball. Look how much of a difference one simple song swap can make for the intensity of the exact same cop chase. Customization is another area where things can get just a tad frustrating, even though it's one of the game's biggest strengths at the same time. The customization system itself is fantastic, but it suffers heavily because almost every part is a licensed real-world component. That sounds cool on paper, yes, but in practice it means options can be extremely limited depending on the car. Some vehicles have tons of parts, others barely have anything. In some cases, there are just straight up no parts available at all, especially when you're deeper into the game and you're at the more high-end vehicles. This is where I really wish they leaned into the classic Need for Speed design. Back in the underground days, they weren't afraid to throw in made-up parts, exaggerated body kits, and fictional brands that existed purely to give players more freedom. If they had mixed that approach with the licensed parts in the game, it would have made a huge difference. So why not add this body kit to the game? Who says no, huh? Who? There are some really noticeable omissions that hurt the customization scene that would have been perfect for the vibes of this game. No underglow, which feels criminal for a game like this. In a city like Ventura Bay, no air suspension, you can't properly slam your car, and because of that, wheel fitment gets weird. If you're going for a stance look, the cars never quite sit how you want them to, and if you're someone who really cares about stance like myself, it becomes frustrating. And this one is super minor, but it does still annoy me quite often. I really wish there was a car wash. Your car gets dirty constantly, and yeah, realism, cool, whatever. But for someone like me with twitching OCD, it drives me insane seeing my perfectly built baby covered in grime with no way to clean it off unless I reload or switch sessions. None of these things individually ruin the game in the slightest, but stacked together, they explain why so many people walked away from Need for Speed 2015 feeling disappointed. There's a clear vision here, a lot of passion, and some genuinely great ideas. But there are also so many small decisions that hold it back from being as legendary as it could have been. Also, why the hell do these guys never open their monster cans? They just hold them the entire game. Open the damn thing. Anyways, like I said, I genuinely love this game, and I know I'm not alone in that, even if sometimes it can feel that way. Where are my 2015 enjoyer chads at? There are people out there in internet land who love Need for Speed 2015 just as much as I do. At the same time, I'm not delusional. I know a lot of people dislike this game, and honestly, I get why. This isn't one of those situations where the criticism is coming from nowhere. The complaints are real, they're valid, and they're completely justified. But here's the thing, when I look at Need for Speed 2015 as a whole, I don't just see a checklist of flaws. I see a game that tried, and not in a corporate soulless way. This game genuinely attempted to reconnect with what made Need for Speed special to so many in the first place. The underground atmosphere is there, the city feels alive, the nights are soaked in rain, the graphics even now are still absolutely insane and hold up in a way that very few racing games do. You can boot this up today today and it still looks better than games that came out years later. The customization, even with its limitations, clearly comes from a place of love for car culture. The vibe, the tone, the presentation, all of it feels like a studio saying, okay, we hear you, we know what you've been asking for. And yeah, they didn't nail everything, but the attempt itself matters. The always online requirement is awful, the cops are a joke, the handling can feel wonky depending on how you build your car. None of that is being brushed under the rug, believe me. But when I weigh those issues against the atmosphere, the visual identity, the moments of organic online interaction, the music that does hit occasionally, the post-launch support like Prestige Mode and Eddie's Challenge.
Damn, you got me. Fair and square. Well, as fair a street race it gets. Good work, man. Guess I underestimated you after all.
Spotlight's on you, kid. Pretty dope considering you got no skills, no crew, and you look like a dork. Is that supposed to impress me? You look like a dork.
And the sheer feeling of just driving around Ventura Bay at night. I can't help but feel like the good outweighs the bad. Need for Speed 2015 is flawed, messy, sometimes frustrating, and occasionally cringe, but it also has a soul. And that's something the franchise has struggled with more and more over the years. This game feels like a snapshot of a very specific moment in time, a moment where Need for Speed was trying to find itself again. It didn't fully succeed, but it also didn't completely fail. It laid the groundwork for years to come. And maybe that's why it sticks with me. Maybe that's why people still boot it up, still take screenshots, still make videos, still argue about it almost a decade later. Because underneath all the problems, there's something here that resonates, something that feels genuine. So yeah, this video, this entire deep dive, it really is a love letter to Need for Speed 2015. Not because it's perfect, but because it attempted to try something meaningful in a franchise that was desperately searching for its identity. And for some of us, that was more than enough. And to that I say, I will always love you, Need for Speed 2015. And if you've made it this far, I want to say thank you. And please consider subscribing because we are on the road to 100K subscribers. And I just know in my heart of hearts, we can get there. RPG out.